Hey, hey, happy Saturday. Today is March 21st, and we are all officially under a sense of lockdown and quarantine based on what's happening in our world. Today is essentially our finale call, our 90-day run finale for our nutrition accountability course. The reason why I invited not only just our private group into this call, but also I made a public announcement for people to come into the call as well, kind of a last minute thing, is because I truly feel in this day and age, or this state that we're in, we need to have more accurate information to how we can create more control in our nutrition and how we can feed ourselves, fuel ourselves. And I truly believe this. I've done a lot of reflecting, as we all have over the last few days, over the last week. This really is an opportunity for us to become our healthiest self that we've ever seen. We have the least amount of distractions happening, unless you allow the distractions to happen, of course. Because remember, where our attention goes, whether it's the news, the media, the headlines, or it's going to be reading a great book or reading something that's going to be of nutritional content value for you, or maybe being in the environments of people that are like-minded. Where your attention goes, your energy flows. And that's where your results are going to show. So that's what's really captivated this entire group leading up to this point, is we've had the greatest support system that I've ever been a part of when it comes to greater nutrition, greater health, strategies, tactics, what's working for other people, what isn't working for people. And we've really kind of created this culmination, if you will, of momentum. And if there's enough demand for this, I don't want to stop these calls. I want to keep this process going. And I want to make sure that we're always supportive. We're always going to be encouraging, and we're always going to engage in what's important for us. And this call, the reason why I opened it up to the public was because we need more information that can be applied, and we need the right information. And we also should never, ever, ever start something that we can't maintain or sustain. Do we agree with that? Like, if we're thinking in our head, like, you know what, I'm going to hunker down and I'm going to create a meal plan that's going to work well for the next 3 weeks, 3 months, however long this lockdown or shutdown lasts, please don't even start. It's not even worth starting. Start something that you can essentially create and apply as a lifestyle. Like, this is a lifestyle transformation. So with that, just before this call, I was talking to Melissa, and we all know Melissa's story for the most part, but if you don't know Melissa's story, you're watching this on a replay or you're watching the recording of this. Melissa, tell us just a bit about what your current circumstances are, and how I know I am taking a much more appreciative approach, because now our new normal is
My normal.
your normal. So share with us, because there's going to be quite a few people that may be experiencing the same thing, but to let everybody know that we're all in the same place right now. And we need each other now more than ever, with positivity, optimism, abundance, gratitude. So Melissa, real quick, your short story, and then we're going to start talking about some things that are going to really make an impact with nutrition.
Well, I know you want to talk about nutrition, but what leads me to where my normal is I fell down my stairs very severely 16 years ago. After 2 years, I had to quit my job. I used to have a life. I used to be normal. I used to walk 2 miles after school. After work. We hiked as a family. So my new normal began like 14 years ago. And then, of course, as it all spiraled worse and worse, then I've had 2 knee surgeries in the last year and a half. And so then my new normal, since I've met all of you, has been therapy. So therapy's been my life. And because of that, because of pain, because of not just being able to walk 10 minutes, I've had to find all kinds of other coping strategies. And through therapy, I've found many things that I continue on every day, and I'm in therapy right now. So yeah, I really appreciate where all you guys that are so active are, how hard this is. My daughter's an Orange Theory person, and she's like going insane. to have all that locked down. But I just have had to learn little by little over the years how to adapt at home and do exercises on the videos, chair exercises. But then the big plus for me is meeting all of you guys, meeting Steve through another Facebook group. And I knew at that point that was a missing component for me, the positivity, the enthusiasm, keeping my high vibes, because as you could imagine, I would be very low a lot of times and be, not being able to drive for 4 years and being I've been basically quarantined and homebound for 4 years, except when my husband takes me to church and the therapy, so Facebook is my virtual family in life now, and I've come to really appreciate it. But yeah, so I'm not unique in needing to find new strategies and needing to be positively lifted up. And I just want to take this time, since Steve gave me the floor for a second, to say, I know you guys are in such a different place than I am, but you've accepted me here, and you don't make me feel embarrassed that I'm at such a lower level physically than you guys, because emotionally and mentally, we all need to be at the same place. And you guys have really been a big part of, well, since the transformation program in December, and that's wintertime. It's always really hard for me. Can't garden, the thing that keeps me going, my passion, I can't do. So you guys have been the punch in the arm for me, and I appreciate it. And that's kind of how I got to where I am today. So.
Well, Melissa, you're absolutely amazing, and never, ever change who you are. Okay. And Melissa's taken advantage of the 90-day run. You took on the coaching or the nutrition accountability coaching program. Jeff Fitzgerald has taken advantage of the nutrition coaching program. Jeff Campbell has taken advantage of the nutrition program, being under my wing, allowing me to do the work that's going to put you in the best position to win with your nutrition. And for that, I'm extremely, extremely grateful. Let me do this before I forget. I'm going to announce that I'm also opening up 3 new spots for the nutrition accountability coaching. It is a 3-month or a 90-day run. And it's for those that are really, really serious and want to commit 100% to their nutrition. And I'm talking about, we have to sometimes forget what we think we know and really start relearning some of the tools and strategies that are proven to really work. And we're going to talk about a lot of those today. I just happen to put it in a very customized, personalized fashion for the unique specificity of the human being that I'm working with. So thank you, everybody, for being here. I appreciate you. This is just a great Saturday. The sun's finally out. It might be snowing in your area. It's going to be snowing here soon. But let's talk about the nasty F word, shall we? And that's food. Food that is very compelling in our life. It's everywhere. Well, it's not so much in the grocery stores right now in some cases. I mean, a lot of places are cleared out, but I assure you that they're going to be restocking those grocery stores. And we've been vigilant enough to be prepared in this time of situation and circumstance. But what, Jeff Campbell, you're there. What's up, buddy?
What's going on?
Hey, I trust all is going well with you and your family. What does food mean to you? Like, what does food do for us?
Well, food to me is a means to fuel my body, my mind, to do my daily activities that I want to do to live a healthy lifestyle. It took me a long time to realize that food is not a source of pleasure. It's not a source of positive thinking, that it is simply there to fuel my body, fuel my mind, heal my body, heal my mind, and to help me achieve the things that I want to do in life. It's just a stepping stone. It's a method. It's a means to get to accomplish the things that I want to do. So, I mean, food can have a sense of pleasure to it, I guess, to where you can enjoy the sweeter things in life. But that's just what it means to me, is that it's just a means to accomplish the things that I want to do, whether it's physically, mentally, or just kind of living life on a daily basis.
Awesome. Well put, well stated, well defined. And did you see Jeff Fitzgerald's eyes light up when he said pleasure of food? Because he's going to be diving in to some birthday cake today.
Nice.
I am not. I got to make it though.
Oh, he's choosing not to. He's choosing not to.
I'm just not a cake person, so.
We're celebrating Jeff's wife's birthday today. So happiest and healthiest of birthdays, Ange. We appreciate you, and thanks for taking care of Jeff, because he needs all the help he can get.
Amen to that. Amen to that.
Yeah, no, you know what, Jeff, you nailed it right on the head as far as food is really, it's a source of fueling and healing our body. And I want to keep this as simple as possible, because I think the simpler it is, the easier it's going to be to execute. Don't major in the minors when it comes to food, meaning don't try to find all the minutia of all these different timings and how the responses work for our food without actually time testing it first. Oftentimes food is going to be a trial and error basis. But if I can, or we can collectively as a group, really time collapse that trial and error so you don't have to waste your time doing it, that's the service that we want to be able to provide. So food itself, it produces consequences, right? I think we've all learned that at this point. It's either a positive, a negative, or sometimes it's both a positive and negative consequences to how food's going to react and respond to our body. Jeff, you said it, emotional eating, okay, is just such a big part, especially now when we're going through these different stresses in the world and we're with our family all day, our kids are there, sometimes we want to pull our hair out and we're like, we need something to comfort ourselves. Those are the disciplines that we have to practice every single day. But here's the caveat to that. And here's what I really want to start getting out of this nutrition piece. It's no different than exercise. It's no different than having a relationship. It's the disciplines that really are not the things that are carrying us to the result. It's the habits behind the discipline. Disciplines, I'm not disciplined 100% of the time. I know Gail's not disciplined 100% of the time. I know Rosemary's not disciplined 100% of the time. Melissa's the first one. I'm not disciplined. But when our disciplines fail us, our habits take over. So how do we create the right habits for our lifestyle? And what do those habits need to entail? First and foremost, here's how we're going to start. We need to start figuring out what foods or what routines that we're currently eating now is producing the body, the physique, the results that we currently have. If you're one that's going to be watching this and you're like, hey, Steve, what does it take to make a real change? How do you make a real transformation? And we're not going to talk about the mindset here. We're going to talk about the physical, tactical steps it's going to take. First and foremost, we have to find out, what are you currently doing? What are you eating now that's producing the result that you currently have? So tracking your current food intake is the number one thing that you need to start doing right away if you want to make a significant change in your nutrition, or in how it's going to produce energy, or how your hormone balances are going to be in your body. You have to track your foods. If you're not doing that, then you're doing yourself a huge disservice. And we know it's kind of a pain in the butt. We know it's going to take some time. We know there's going to be some pattern interrupts with that process potentially, but it has to be done. Do you agree? Does everybody agree? I'll say that. I will say that is I concur, whatever that was. All right. So, tracking your foods. Melissa, you have a question?
Yeah, no, it's just like when maybe people aren't used to tracking their foods and you say, it is a real inconvenience or pain in the butt. But once again, where I'm slightly different, I'm diabetic and I've had to track my food and have to do my blood sugar. So it is a pain in the butt at first, but it gives you so much information. And so if you can just do it and get used to it, it'll be second nature. And then you don't even have to track it in your mind. You already know. And then you've helped me change over to the more protein and less fruit. So now, you know, you just, it gives you the awareness. And you always talk about, you know, having the awareness, and that's a good first step.
Yeah, awareness in itself when you're doing your tracking is transformational. Like that is a big eye opener for many people, is when they're tracking their serving size, their food itemizations, what they're actually consuming, they're probably realizing that eating 100 grams of sugar per day isn't a great idea. Like they're just realizing it because they're documenting it, they're tracking it. So we have the ability to make change more so than we think we do. And that's important to know. So that once we have that information locked in and we have our nutritional values, what do we do at that point? How do we know where to go from there? And I already have that all calculated out for anybody that wants to know their information. I personally typically go off of a baseline, which is a BMR. It's a basal metabolic rate. It's the amount of calories that your body, specifically to you, need to consume to keep your metabolism as efficient as possible. Almost like if you have a house, just how many calories does it take to keep the lights on? Because a calorie in itself, it's an energy, it's a unit of energy. So that's how we look at the food. It's a unit of energy, and our body thrives off of the nutritional values that we are consuming. So let me give you an example. I'm going to share my screen here, and I'm going to show you where you can go to find out what your BMR is. And you can go right to my website and feelfitastic.com. And when you get to the home page, just go into nutrition here. And nutrition is going to give you this right here, which says, how much do you burn? Can you see that? Are you seeing my share? So for example, let's go through Jeff Fitzgerald. Jeff, let's go over what your BMR is. What's your weight in pounds? Are you on mute?
There I am.
Okay.
I don't know how I got all muted. I think you did it with the video thing.
Okay.
So what's my weight in pounds?
Yeah. Yep.
170.2, I think, this morning.
We'll get you under 170 before Angela's birthday's over.
Yeah.
How young are you?
What's that?
How young are you?
I am 53.
53 years young? You look that great at 53? Woohoo!
Dude, I look better.
I know. Oh, if people haven't seen the before and after pictures, then they're missing out. What's your height?
Oh, yeah.
Height?
5'10".
All right, male, boom, calculate.
5'10".
All right, so your BMR is this. Your basal metabolic rate is 1654. That's just the baseline. That's not including what your lifestyle factor is. Let me put a disclaimer here. This is just a gauge. It's just a guide to help you get started. It doesn't mean that this is how many calories you should be consuming. This is a point to where to start. And then once you start putting a game plan into play, that's where we become intuitive. That's where we use your biofeedback. That's where we really can make some changes and manipulations to how your body's responding. But we need a place to start, don't we? So the place that we're really truly starting is where you're currently at. It's what you're tracking. Now, for example, if Jeff Fitzgerald was tracking his nutrients, and he come to find out he's only eating 1,000 calories per day. And at this point, I'm not going to talk about the quality of the calories. Let's just we also know, we've talked about this so many times, that a calorie is not a calorie. There's different profiles for it. But just for the sake of this conversation, let's say it was 1,000 calories. And let's say Jeff Fitzgerald had a very sedentary lifestyle. He sits in a desk all day, doesn't move very frequently, he's on a computer a lot. Then his BMR with his lifestyle would be 1,984 calories. So if he's at 1,000 calories and the BMR calculation is saying 1,900, or let's say 2,000 calories, there's no way it would make reasonable sense for me to go to Jeff and say, hey brother, you got to start consuming 2,000 calories. Why? Because the numbers say so. No, that's not how it works. We have to incrementally work our way up there. In this case, I would probably go about a 20% bump. I would say, let's go 1,200 calories. Let's go 1,200 calories. Let's start with that. Let's commit to that. And then we slowly work our way up. And that's exactly what we did with Jeff. Right, Jeff? I know he's there, but he's nodding his head. That's exactly what we did. And we slowly worked himself up so that his metabolism was going to be as efficient as possible to keep his lean muscle tissue that he's worked so hard for in the gym to be a catalyst for him burning that unwanted adipose or fat tissue on his body. What questions do we have about the BMR? Because I think this is just an important step that so many people miss. So many people want to start a plan and they just take a dart and they throw it on the wall, and wherever they feel it sticks, it sticks. If I come to you and ask you, hey, how did you come up with what your caloric expectations are? And you have no idea, allow me to help you with that. Allow me to get you in a better direction so that you feel confident and secure with you putting in the energy and effort that it takes to start the right process.
Yeah, most people, Steve, too, when they talk about the BMR, a lot of people take that as the gospel. And unfortunately, they don't apply common sense to it. So I know people who say, well, my BMR is this, so this is what the calorie intake I'm going to do, or blah, blah, blah. It's okay. You know,
and again,
there's no rhyme or reason to it.
Absolutely. Remember, this conversation is really, it's really for people to help them get started. Like, we're in a position right now where we need to support each other the most we possibly can. And what even infuriates me more, it just burns my belly, is when people get the wrong information. They're not getting accurate information, or they're following an Instagram celebrity that's saying, hey, I'm doing an intermittent fasting, 3 hours of eating, and I'm doing 21 hours of fasting, and it's worked for me. All right, enough of that. What is sustainable? What can you do every day, essentially for the rest of your life, to create a life that you desire, which eventually you deserve? Here's the truth. The life that we're living right now, the body that we have currently, I'll even go to say our mindset, the thoughts that we're thinking, this is exactly what we deserve. It's exactly what we deserve. You mean to tell me, Steve, that I deserve to be in a 300-pound overweight, obese body? That's exactly what I'm telling you. Because, and I'm not saying that to be insensitive, I'm saying because your decisions, your choices that you made put you in that position. But guess what? Your past doesn't equal your future. We can get you out of that just as fast as you got into it. But you have to be patient, you have to be resilient, and you have to have some work ethic that's going to be put into it. And that's the truth. I'm not here to sugarcoat things. I'm not here to give you thumbs up and high fives and saying, hey, great job because you satisfied your meal plan 50%. Bullshit. That's not acceptable. I'll even tell you that you need to do it 100%. And that's how I used to coach people. I used to say it's 100% or nothing. But I also realized that population out there was far few and in between. And here's why. If you can't do this 100% with diligent focus and intent, that's like me going to my wife right now and saying, hey, honey, listen, I got to tell you, I'm about 99% faithful with our relationship. Do you think that would that work well? That wouldn't fly too well. Why are we not treating the relationship with ourselves at 100%? Why? Because it's easy to fall off? What relationship with our spouse is easy? It's not easy. But guess what? We're freaking committed. Treat your nutrition the same way with the strategies and tips that we're going to teach you here today. Be 100% focused in your nutrition during this time in your life. While you're home, you have your family, you have no distractions, you have extra time, you can read more books, you can listen to better podcasts, you can get engaged with people like us in an environment that's going to serve you optimally. Be 100% vigilant in your nutrition. And then when you become fit and the version of yourself that you're confident, you can take your, I'm just using an example, you can take your shirt off at the pool confidently and you're where you want to be. That might be a time where you can say, hey, 80-20. Now every case is individual and separate. everyone is. So I've had great, tremendous conversations with everybody on this call, except for Scott. Scott, you're next. But you understand what I'm saying. You understand how passionate I am about you living in your best, healthiest body. I'm living it. I've lived it for many years. I want you to feel and experience the same thing. Why? Because you deserve it. You truly do. So with that, I have to ask this question. Does anybody have any concerns or issues with establishing what's a solid caloric expectation range? Are we okay with that? Do we know where that needs to sit at?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then we say, all right, so that's really like the macros in there. Like that's the big picture. How do we start breaking down those things into the foods that we eat, the macronutrients, the proteins, the carbohydrates, and the fats? How do we start breaking those things down so it's not like super complicated, it's not confusing, I'm not frustrated? Let's go over some numbers. Because again, nutrition, like most everything else in life, is math. There's math involved. So let's talk about protein. Protein is really, you've heard me talk about, like that's the king and the queen of our nutritional foundation. Why is that? Because we are human living organisms that have this incredible cellular structure. And we want to be in an anabolic state as much as we possibly can. Anabolic simply means this. That means that there's more amino acid or protein going into our muscle tissue than is leaving our muscle tissue. Versus catabolic means that there's more protein or amino acid leaving our muscle than is coming in. To optimally serve ourselves and for a catalyst of tremendous metabolism, we want to be in a more anabolic state as much as we can. So protein is going to be a very important source for this strategy. So how much protein do we need to consume per day? And I'm going to take out all variables, by the way. I'm not going to say on a training day or a non-exercise day or just a cardio day. Let's talk about general protein consumption intake, which is personalized per person. There is no blanket statement like number, like 100 grams of protein for everybody or 200 grams of protein for everybody. There is a calculation to it. Who can recall what that calculation is?
1 gram per pound of body weight or lean muscle mass, but usually it's per pound of body weight.
Yeah, there's really going to be two ways we can look at it. And again, this is going to be contingent on what your lifestyle is and where you're currently at. That's like the big part is like, what are you currently doing? Like if you're currently, after you're done tracking, come to find out you're eating only 50 grams of protein. And I'm saying only 50 grams of protein because that's extremely low for anybody. It really is if you think about it in the big scope. You want to take in between 0.8 grams of protein per body pound up to 1 gram of protein per body pound. Now that's going to be for somebody that's really physical and they're active on a very regular basis. They're breaking down, they're engaging a lot of muscle, they're stimulating their tissues, on a daily, regular basis. Then people are going to be saying, well, Steve, I'm a 200-pound person, male or female. You mean to tell me that I need to be taking in 200 grams of protein? I'm saying yes. Eventually, that's where we want the goal to be, because this is all transitional. Like there's a transitional process. Melissa, Jeff Campbell, Jeff Fitzgerald, they can all attest to the fact that our nutrition is a moving piece. It's a moving puzzle. It never stays the same as our body changes, as it adapts, as we're increasing lean muscle tissue, as we're increasing our cardiovascular levels. Raise your hand if our nutrition changes on a regular basis, right? I mean, everybody's different. It could change every 2 to 3 weeks. It could change every 2 to 3 months, contingent on how your body's responding, how intuitive you are to how your body's making the changes. That's going to be protein. But let me add one more thing. Let's say you're on the very light side of protein. Let's say it is 40, 50, 60 grams of protein per day, which you currently are doing. Let's give you some grace here. And let's go with the fact that you want to take in 0.8 grams of protein to 1 gram of protein per lean body mass pound. There's a difference between a true body pound of weight or a lean body mass pound of weight. The difference is this: remove what your body fat percentage is off of your frame, off your physique, off your calculations and numbers. That will produce you the lean body mass of your physique. So for example, I don't expect anybody to have a home body fat assessment, especially with us being inside and we don't have access to a gym or a professional resource. But I have a feeling that you have a decent gauge that you can look at yourself in the mirror and be like, you know what, I'm probably about 30% body fat. Or I'm about 20%, or maybe I'm even 40% body fat. Make a generalization to what you feel like your body fat is. If you need help, reach out to me. I'll help you with that. Katrina, what's up, sister? If you want to go online, go search body fat types. Go compare what your body physique looks like to what's online. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm not striving for perfection. I just want progression. I want us to progress so that we continually making improvements. So 0.8. So the example was this. Let's say you're a 200-pound person, human, and your body fat is 20% body fat. That means that your lean body mass is 160 pounds. So do your 0.8 and 1 gram of protein to the 160-pound calculation number. That will be like your new or your starting goal for protein. Is that like as smooth as X-Lax or clear as mud?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, you can. Of course you can.
Because,
come on.
because like I'm used to pounds and ounces. So what's grams to ounces of protein? And does that make a difference, or how should I understand that? I don't have a gram scale.
28 grams is going to be approximately 1 ounce. Yeah, and if you have a scale, it typically has like a calculation, like a converter on there. So that, yeah, 28 grams will be equivalent to 1 ounce. If you're doing it from a weighing perspective. All right, so that's the protein. Once you lock that protein number up, oh, here's another important thing to know, is that there are 4 calories per gram of protein. So if you're starting to do math around your caloric expectations, like almost reverse engineer it, you want to know how many calories are in the grams of protein that you're eating, right? There's 4 calories per gram of protein. So if you're taking in 125 grams of protein per day, that's equivalent to 500 calories. Some thumbs up. So that will help you with some simple math if that comes to that. And again, by all means, reach out to me if you have some questions about doing some of the calculations. If you're not working with me directly, I'll be more than happy to help you out. All right, let's talk carbohydrates. The villainous carbohydrates. They're essential. Like they are very important for our progress, especially when it comes to sustainability, energy, and longevity with our nutrition. The question really comes to what are the quality of the carbohydrates that we're taking in? Because we can easily, like when people start talking about, and if we have time for it, I'd love to talk about processed carbs, refined carbs. We could talk about artificial sugars if you want, and how those could take you down and cause inflammation, and some of the things we really want to avoid if we want to be super successful with this process. But carbohydrates, that's going to be, again, contingent on oftentimes what your lean body mass is. Is that like WrestleMania over there? Is there a bell? You have a bell? Ding, 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 ding. So carbohydrates, I truly, I don't know what your numbers are going to be, but here's what I'll tell you. Carbohydrates are typically going to be probably around what your protein source is your intake is, around that number, starting off as a baseline. So if you're taking in 125 grams of carbohydrate, try to match that with, with your protein, 125 grams of protein, match that with your carbohydrates, and then also start at a goal of 125 grams of carbohydrate. So your carbs are technically going to be contingent on what your protein intake is. And let me disclaim again, this is a baseline. This is where I would start to start putting together these numbers. So as your protein goes up, feel free to bring your carbs up with that as you start. But sometimes when you bring your protein up, your carbs could go down as well, because we want to make sure we're aligning to what the caloric expectations are. What are some of the experiences you've had with carbohydrates? Anyone here? What are your thoughts about carbohydrates? How about Jeff Campbell? What would you do if you didn't have carbs? What would happen?
Go crazy.
Go crazy?
It's funny. I've actually, before I met you, I did the whole ketogenic diet for, it was probably roughly like 6 months. And it was tough. I mean, it's, for me, it wasn't sustainable, but, you know, there were days that I'd go crazy, but, going, you know, when me and you hooked up and we, you know, put together my nutritional plan, and then going through contest prep, and slowly, that's usually, you know, for my personal goals and what I want to obtain, it requires the reduction of carbs as we progress. And, you know, you kind of learn the role that carbohydrates plays just in your daily energy requirements, and how your mind function, and how, you know, how well you sleep, how well, you know, just bodily functions work. And when you start to deprive yourself, or not deprive, I guess we're not depriving, but we're reducing those, you realize how important of a role that they play. So when you do get back to a sustainable lifestyle, that it's just as important to hit your carbohydrate goal as it is your protein goal, just for daily function and for living and for satisfaction and just having the energy to do what you want to do.
Yeah, and let me make it clear one more time that the carbohydrate requirements are different for everybody.
Yeah.
And there's going to be times, like in extreme circumstances, like somebody getting ready for a bodybuilding prep, or a marathon runner getting ready to run a marathon, their carbohydrate intake is ridiculous before a run. There needs to be an adequate amount of carbohydrates into your plan, not only for the energy that you're talking about, Jeff, not only because of the fact that it helps with our protein synthesis, it actually does help carry nutrients through our body, but it also regulates a lot of our hormone levels. And when we start having irregularity with hormones or dysfunction with hormone levels, much of it can be fixed or rectified through food, through nutrition. You know, so it really is, you cannot remove an entire macronutrient out of a diet or a plan and expect that to be sustainable. Like, you just can't do it. You can't just remove one entire nutrient. You can't just remove carbs or can't remove fats out of your plan. So you have to have that balance in there. And that's where we're starting to dial in some of these expectations and numbers. Melissa.
As far as the carbs go, this is where I really needed your help, because I've been diabetic for 10 years, and they no longer have like, oh, do this for so many meals, and each meal like a diabetic diet in the past. And so I never had a good roadmap, and I would keep my carbs under control, I thought. But it wasn't until you looked at what I was eating that I was way over in fruit and way over in some things. And so I was kind of like always working hard and trying to do the right thing. I just didn't know what the right thing was. So that's, so as you say, each of us are different, but that was my challenge with carbs and not being able to have a very active lifestyle.
So physiologically, over the last 3 months, Melissa, when we've actually put some attention and dialed in your nutrition with carbohydrates and even the serving sizes, how has your health improved?
Well, almost immediately, just making those few changes with, not hardly any fruit and all that, my blood sugar went immediately down where it needs to be. Now, I am still on medicine, but even with medicine, it was medium. It was okay. But now it just almost very quickly came way down where my targets are. And of course, so I always focused on carbs. I never focused on the protein because I assumed I was eating protein at every meal, because as diabetic, you're supposed to do that. But so that was something I was totally not counting or not aware of. But the carb, that's kind of how that impacted me right off the bat.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, tremendous results, great progress. I commend your commitment to the plan. So outstanding, outstanding. All right, carbohydrate questions. I feel like it's my due diligence to even talk about the quality of calories, or at least the quality of carbohydrates. Here's what you want to avoid. Okay, if you really want to create happiness in your body, you need to really reduce the amount of processed and refined carbohydrates that your body's going to be consuming. Like, that's really one of the biggest strategies. Okay, what does that mean? Like, you ever heard the term clean eating? Like, you want to eat clean? Clean eating is simply reducing the amount of manufactured foods or ingredients that are in what you're consuming. So if how you're eating it doesn't look like it was when it was underground, above ground in a tree, or walking around in a pasture somewhere, then it's manufactured at some level. It's going to have some artificial chemicals in it. It's going to have processed attributes to it. That is what causes inflammation in our body, is the processed and refined the foods. It's not just carbohydrates, but there's processed foods everywhere. How do we identify that? I want to get this on this call because this might be just one of those like this makes sense. Read the ingredient labels. Read your labels when you're at the grocery store. If it has more than 5 ingredients on it, chances are 99% that it is not a clean food. If it's got 15 ingredients and you can't even pronounce 3/4 of them, it's refined, it's processed. It has artificial garbage and junk in it. I'm not saying that you have to eliminate it altogether, but just be mindful and aware so that you can really, really reduce the amount of processed foods that you're eating. That in itself is a transformation game changer. People don't realize it. What they think is healthy, because the box and the marketing tells you it's healthy, it's not. Be a smarter consumer than you have ever been. Look at the labels. Just because it says gluten-free on there, it says whole grain, it says fat-free, don't buy into the marketing strategies. Look at the details behind the box or on the side. I'll even press and say, if it's in a box, you probably shouldn't be eating it anyway. Does that help? Is that one tip that we can take away? Even if it's a reminder and you're like, you know what? I needed to hear that again. That in itself is a game changer. All right, so we have 15 minutes here. We're going to get into some fats. P-H-A-T, fat, or just F-A-T, whichever way. Hey, if we can't have fun, what can we have on this beautiful sunny Saturday? It's another great day to be confident, as I say. All right, so fats. Do fats make us fat?
No.
No!
No.
No! All right, so how much fat do we need? So we have an idea of what protein intake we need to have. We know the idea of how many carbohydrates we need to have. How many fats should we be consuming?
9 calories per gram of fat.
Okay. Rosemary, Thank you, because I failed to tell you how many calories were in a gram of carbohydrate. Let me tell you that. There's 4. 4 calories per gram of carbohydrate. And the same as protein. 4 for protein, 4 for carbohydrate. So if you want to get math, make it easy math, you can do the numbers. Yes, there are 9 calories per gram of fat. So there's over double the amount of energy required to burn a gram of fat than there is protein or carbohydrate. But how many grams of fat should we be consuming per day?
You should, once you figured out your BMR and your daily requirement for calories, you calculated your protein, you've calculated your carbs, you backfill the rest of your requirement with the fats.
Yes, you could definitely do that way, and you may even come up with some skewed numbers. It just requires, I like to equate it to an equalizer board. So an equalizer board, if you've ever seen like a DJ doing their music, it's got like treble and bass and all the different modules they do for their music. It's like our food. So if we're going to have our total calorie number here, let's say it's 2,000 calories for the day, and we're taking in 750 grams of or calories of protein for the day, and then we have 750 for the carbohydrate, because those are going to match and those are going to meet. That's going to be 1,500 calories. Then you have 500 calories for fats, right? So 500 calories would be remaining, and you divide that by 9. That's going to give you, I don't know, like 80 grams of protein or 80 grams of fat, something like that. I could be off. Probably am. Do the math on it. I'm going to say this. Let's try to get close to half a gram of fat per body pound. Let's start there. Half of a gram of fat per body pound. Because there's so much variance in that carbohydrate, that might be the one that you want to backfill in when you get your protein in and get your fat in. Backfill those carbohydrates if you're going to reverse engineer it. Yes, sir.
So I've always understood the role that carbs play. I've always understood the role that protein plays in a diet. But at the cellular level, what role do the fats play?
Fats play a tremendous role in hormone balance. Hormones are big when it comes to fats, especially when it's going to be omega-3s, omega-6s. The satiation for our body, it keeps our body temperature regulated. It keeps our brain healthy, keeps our heart healthy. So from an internal cellular level, I would say if anything, out of all those, hormonal balance is one of the biggest benefits and attributes to what fat's going to provide for you.
I remember me and you having a conversation about this, and what really kind of struck home to me, especially being a guy, in my mid-30s, is that hormonally with testosterone, it's such a huge part of maintaining a healthy testosterone level in males that, that really made, for me, that hit home, because, I'm on forums and stuff, and I read about people that are on testosterone therapies and this other stuff in like their early 30s. And I'm like, geez, man, you know what I mean? It's like, meeting with you and just being able to support, making sure that my fat levels, my fat intake is suffice for my hormonal balance has been key.
Yeah, absolutely. And when people think of fat, they almost start thinking like it's a negative stigma, that fat, because they're thinking of like pastries and chocolates, and they're thinking about all these things that truly do have those unhealthy saturated or trans fried foods, very, very fatty. They're thinking of those as fats. But could you imagine our life without avocados, almonds, walnuts, pecans, olive oil, coconut? Us having all those healthy fats in our diet and removing those out, we would have some serious issues. From, again, a hormonal standpoint, us being satiated, we wouldn't be very full for long. our nutrients wouldn't be carried or assimilated in our body efficiently. So fats are very, very, very important up there. And at one point in my career, my life, back in high school, I used to believe fat made me fat. So I ate no fat in my diet. And I was a competitive wrestler. I was an athlete. And I learned the hard way, because I had a hard time keeping my energy up because those fats were not in my diet. And I had a hard time keeping full. It was a nightmare. And thank God, oh my quad, I figured it out. I did. All right, so fats, and again, I'm trying to touch the surface here. Fats, carbohydrates, proteins, total caloric intake. That's what that all equates to. Do we have any questions about processed foods or artificial sugars? We know we should be staying away from those as well.
I have a question.
Artificial sweeteners are 100 to 200 times more sweet than regular cane sugar. It causes sweetness deregulation or irregulation with our body. We change our entire palate when we start taking artificial sweeteners, not to mention all the inflammation and the layers of water that we produce in our body as a defense mechanism. Stay away from artificial sugars. I'd rather you eat regular sugar if you're going to eat sugar, but don't even do that. Rosemary, were you going to say something?
Yes, sir. I was going to ask. So it's 0.5 gram of fat per body pound, but you're talking about lean. No, sorry. Never mind. I just answered my question.
You could go either way with it. And again, just put the numbers on a sheet of paper and really kind of see what makes sense to you. Use some common sense. I get really specific. When I meet with a client, I want to know details. I want to know what you're doing, how you're doing it, when you're eating it. That way I can make, we should not have to change our entire eating plan or how we eat 180 degrees. It really should be incremental, and it should align with what your current lifestyle is doing. So if you want to say 0.5 gram of fat per body pound, great. If you want to say 0.5 gram per lean body mass pound, then go that route too. I always like to shoot for the lean, to shoot for the true body pound, because that way it just keeps everything aligned, at least for my mathematical assessment.
Thank you.
All right, we have a few minutes left, and let's talk about hydration, shall we? One of the unsung heroes. You see me drinking water the entire time, right? It's like, what's he doing with that big old jug? Well, I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm serving myself well. Hydration is the unsung hero that if you've been in my environment or you've been in my surroundings for enough time, you realize the benefit of what being properly hydrated does for us, and the benefits of it transporting, again, nutrients to our body, keeping our body fully regulated. It promotes fat loss. It just as does all the food and the nutrients we're taking in. Our body reads the foods we're taking in, and every food has a job to do. It either helps us or it hurts us. Same thing with water. If we're dehydrated, our blood pressure is affected. We get migraines. We start making impaired decisions on eating. There's all types of things. So how much water is required? And again, we want to arm you with information that you can do for longevity in a lifetime. So water hydration. Let's hear from someone else. Gail, how much water, how much hydration should we be having on a regular basis?
Well, from what why are you asking me this question? I know what I started out before our conversation, which was maybe 8 ounces a day, and now I'm up to 64 to 80 ounces a day. So you tell me if that's good for where I'm at, or if it should be increased and what other people should know.
Well, the reason why I asked you, Gail, is because you've been fastidious about your commitment to the power promise and the power promise of you staying hydrated. And the power promise is this. It's where I encourage people to pick one small thing, the smallest thing that you could possibly do in a day, and do it every single day to make a commitment to yourself. And you chose that you were going to increase your water intake. And I think it's really important that we don't just do things because it makes sense, but we're doing them because we know why we're doing them. Because we want to be able to teach other people this. Like, we want to see, like, hey, Gail, why are you taking in more water? I see you carrying your jug around. Well, because this is how much water we should be taking in, or here's how we should stay hydrated. And let me tell you what it's done for my life and how it's really improved, the overall production and performance of my work and my life and my relationships. But here's the hydration recommendation. You want a half ounce of water per body pound is going to be the minimal expectation. So half of an ounce of water or fluid per body pound. That's the minimal expectation. If you're not meeting that minimal expectation, Cora, great morning. If you're not meeting that minimal expectation, I want you to stop doing whatever you're doing now and focus on getting that amount of fluid in your body. It could come from a cup of coffee. It could come from a cup of tea, but that much fluid. I'd like to see it at all H2O or water, but if it's going to come from a combination of everything, then that's fine as well. I shoot for, and when you're prepared for it, it's 1 ounce of water per body pound. So my goal every day is 180 ounces of water. That's 1.5 gallons. There's 128 ounces in a gallon. That's why I'm always carrying around a gallon, because I know I'm measuring it. What gets measured gets improved. Campbell.
Yeah, I would say for me personally, and I teach this to my kids too, and I do it with my wife, anytime they complain about headaches, fatigue, stomach problems, I say, how much water have you drank today? Have you drank, go get a drink of water, drink 8 ounces, go drink a glass, see how you feel. And it's pretty amazing to see how just drinking water, when you do have a headache or when you're feeling fatigued or when you're feeling hungry even, when you just ate an hour ago, sometimes it's your water levels, it's your body asking for water, but sometimes people mistake that for cravings so sometimes just getting that water balance will reset a lot of things in your body.
Amen to that. Amen. And again, just like the nutrition, meet yourself where you're at with what your typical routine is and your habit. And don't be ashamed of it. Just own it. If I'm going to ask you to go track how much water you're drinking on average, go track your water. If you come to me and say, Steve, I'm only taking in 25 ounces of water per day, that's embarrassing. Who cares? Get over yourself. Know that that's the reality, and we're going to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Your past doesn't equal your future unless you're still living in it. So start shooting for it. I'm not saying that if you're taking in 25 ounces of water and you're a 150-pound person, that you have to start going immediately towards 75 ounces of water every day. It's not realistic. But what's realistic if you're taking in 25 ounces of water is probably 40 ounces of water. That's realistic. Commit to that for a week, then go to 50 ounces of water for the next week, then 60 ounces of water, and slowly work your way up. You owe yourself at least that. So with all this being said, contingent on the severity of what the drivers and the reasons are for why we're doing this is to the extent that you're going to be committed to a structured plan. Don't feel that by you putting together this plan that's going to serve you and it's going to be personalized and customized to you is going to be enough. What's going to be enough is when you have a plan that's in play and you have a driven reason and a committed reason to why you want to do it. It's not the goal. The goal without a reason is impotent. It's dead. You don't have anything besides just a goal or a strategy written down. Have a reason why you want to do this. If you have children, do your children deserve the healthiest version of yourself? They sure do. You've heard me say this, but it's worth saying it. We have to stop acting like we live life twice. We have one shot at this. And right now is the best time more than ever, under dire circumstances in our world, to start serving us and taking care of us. Choosing you, as Coach Peter Passetto would say. So with that, we're going to end the call here. I do want to announce again that I have 3 spots open for whomever's watching this that wants to take their nutrition to the next level. I need 3 months. I need 3 months of your commitment. I will commit a minimum of 3 months to you, and we are going to deep dive your nutrition like you've never seen. I'll take all the guesswork out for what you need to do to accomplish the real, true goal that you want. No fluff, no, top surface stuff. I want to get deep with your nutrition, and I'll customize it for you. And I'll post that link down in this replay as well. So let's get 1 more minute. Tell me an aha. What did you guys take out of this call that maybe you've heard before, but you needed the reminder, or it's the first time you heard it and you said, hallelujah? I'll take 2 people. Who's first?
I'll just say I learned about grams and protein and carbohydrates, and I probably need to pay more attention to what I'm eating.
Yeah, just having that awareness, Gail, and knowing those, it doesn't mean that you have to track your foods forever or for the next month, but just commit to like a week. Track it for a week, calculate your nutrients, 4 calories per gram of protein, 4 calories per gram of carbohydrate, 9 calories per fat. Rosemary, you're on a lot of calls. What did you take out of this call?
I just got a reminder myself to drink more water because today I have not drink any water at all, and I was having a slight headache, and I'm like, that's right. I know. I know. I've been busy with pancakes since I got up.
All right. With that, let me just say this. Within the first 5 minutes of you waking up, everybody here, including myself, I want you to commit to 5% of what your goal is. Maybe it's 10% of your goal. Commit to something within the first 5 minutes. You can drink water. Start the momentum the moment your feet hit the floor. Drink water before you go to sleep. Just a little bit. I'm not sure how your bladder control is, but bookend your days. I know you can do this. I believe in you. I know that we can do it. It just requires focus and dedication to it.
I have another question because I've been, another thing what I've been a little off on my water because I started doing that, buying the gallons of water, and it's been so hard for me to buy those gallons. Where do you get your water? Online, or do you go?
No, I get it at a local grocery store, but with the limitations and restrictions now, they're only letting you purchase, like, you can only buy a 3 case of water at one experience at the store, but just you could refill it for the time being, I suppose, or just have a quart that you can continue refilling. Just keep track of it.
Okay.
And again, that's not majoring in the minors. Just don't let anything get in your way.
Yeah, so true. Thank you.
Melissa, last one.
Just about the water. I had a friend that went through breast cancer and chemo, and they told her from a medical standpoint that the first thing she does when she wakes up in the morning is drink a pint, which is 2 cups of water every day. And of course, we're all through the day shooting for much higher, but that in itself, first thing in the morning, will flush a lot of the toxins. I thought, man, if that's good enough for cancer and chemo patients, because I always drink a lot of water, but I didn't necessarily start like first thing. So I do that, and I always think of her, and that's just good to get our toxins out, let alone get rehydrated.
Great habit to have. So what I'm going to do, I mean, it's amazing how water is like the best topic of conversation. It's like water, it's like one of the simplest things we can do, yet it's the unsung hero to most of our progress when it comes to our body. I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to put this on my personal page on Facebook. I might even try to do some clips on Instagram. feel free to share this, because if we have enough demand for people that want to come together and have like this mastermind and talk about things that matter to the people that really care, I'll continue doing calls, because I think this is going to be a great way to support each other through what we're doing. But I need to have enough demand for it to happen. You know, I want to have some people show up and ask great questions and engage with us like we have today. Fair enough?
Steve?
Yes.
Yeah, I've been kind of in and out because of my video, my internet feed here, but I want to suggest that that if anybody wants to continue these calls, I'm absolutely in. I think they're important, and I think this 90-day run has shown that. So if we can show some interest to take it to the, you know, to continue this, that's what I'd like to do personally. I mean, you and I talk anyways, but I'd like to see this group continue and grow.
Absolutely. So would I. But I would like to have more than, you know, 2 or 3 people show up, and I want to make this as valuable as I possibly can. And I'm not saying that 2 or 3 people, that value or that time's not valuable. I'm just saying this information we're talking about, can we not agree that this is going to help affect the masses? Like, people need to hear some more information that is just like simple, it's legitimate, and it's proven to work.
I think people are faced with being at home and preparing their own meals right now. So it's really important to know we can't just go to the store, or you can't just go to the restaurant 4 nights a week. We're home with our own food.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If we can get our minds right, and I say we because we are as strong as our weakest link when it comes to our environment. When we have our minds right, I am convinced that we are going to walk out of this. We're quarantined for the next 3 months. Who knows how long it is? Nobody's going to see us. Can you imagine when we actually take care of ourselves and we're feeding ourselves the right food, we're getting the physical daily activity that we need, no distraction, no BS. We're going to walk out of our houses for the first time looking like completely different humans, because we're going to be in that great a shape. Like, that's the way I envision this. Call me a delusional optimist. I am. But that's what I'm envisioning, because this is what it's going to be. We're going to walk out into the real world once it opens up, and they're going to be like, who the hell are you? Like, you don't look even close to the same. You don't have the same mindset. You're so much more positive. You have that gazelle flow to you. Like, that's what I see it. And I need everybody's help to do that. And that's just how passionate I am. I want people to live the best, healthiest lives they can to the best of their potential. Not mine. It's your potential. So on that note, I'm fired up. I'm going to go take care of those kids. Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate you. Let's get this message out so we can continue these calls. Let's go.
Let's go. You guys.
Let's go.
See ya.
Bye.